Hello and welcome to the next one of these against New Labour and the current ANC. New Labour. The Labour Party was set up by the Labour Movement, a popular movement of the working majority of the population who were organised through trade unions. The party was set up to secure for ordinary workers, being the majority of the population but vastly underpaid and mistreated by their bosses, the full fruit of their labour. Thus they were committed to fighting for the rights of workers vis-à-vis exploitative bosses. The party has now become co-opted by the bosses class and has become just another business-friendly party. The difference between Labour and the Conservatives has become far smaller than it ever was before. There is now no party who considers it their role to stand up for the poorer majority vis-à-vis the privileged and exploitative rich elite minority. New Labour formally jettisoned their founding commitment to socialism when they abolished Clause 4 of their constitution to secure for the workers the full fruit of their labour. Tony Blair was a wolf in sheep's clothing. His job was to turn the Labour Party into another Conservative party. There are still some differences, but they are far less pronounced. Mainstream political parties are now at a consensus that we accept the rule of the rich. Backbench Labour MPs are often still relatively left-wing, but the party whips at the bequest of the party leadership ensures that they vote in line with the party line as laid down by the party leadership for the benefit of big business. And even backbench Labour MPs are not as left-wing as the previous generation of them were, because the party leadership is in charge of election candidate selection. They parachute their kind of people into Labour safe seats, instead of letting the local constituency party membership democratically choose for themselves. Thus you get fewer working class candidates, more right-wingers, and few local people who know and have a connection to the constituency. New Labour announced, on coming to power, that they would have an ethical foreign policy. This is another point why I don't like New Labour. Ethical foreign policy, and that this would mean no more arms sales to repressive regimes. They promptly continued selling arms to repressive regimes, including Indonesia, who used fighter jets to bomb villages in West Papua, thus making a real mockery of the claim to have an ethical foreign policy. Having severely criticised the Tories' PFI, Public Finance Initiative, in opposition, they then expanded the scheme once in power. Another example of saying one thing before they come to power and then doing the opposite when they get into power. The PFI in practice is a huge rip-off for public finances because the taxpayer is left with huge debts to banks and corporations for delivering public services of often substandard quality, essentially giving away huge public funds to private corporations. An utter scandal if only the media would cover it, but they don't, for the usual reasons. And then we have the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, and there is the annual Labour Party conference. It used to be a forum for the party membership to make party policy together. Now it's a corporate schmooze fest with corporate logos all over the place, with leaders giving stage-managed speeches and no real participation at all. Against the current ANC, just as socialist Labour has become corporate-friendly New Labour, the radical movement which battled valiantly against apartheid and ushered in a non-racist South Africa has sadly now turned into a neoliberal Thatcherite corporate-friendly party which serves the interests of big business and has made poverty worse rather than alleviated it. The ANC came forward originally on a socialist platform. The anti-apartheid struggle was very much a battle for economic justice. The black majority were also the poor majority, and were being denied decent schools, decent healthcare, decent employment opportunities, and wealth was monopolised by the white elite. The ANC's manifesto, known as the Freedom Charter, was drawn up in a most democratic and participatory manner. But the negotiations through which the ANC came to power saw the leadership surrender one by one the right to enact any of the policies which addressed the absolutely crucial key issue of economic justice, and they never received permission from the rank and file to do this. Thus the party was hamstrung on this crucial issue. Since coming to power, the ANC has done nothing to return to its founding socialist principles, despite the majority of citizens' wish for them to do so. The real power in South Africa lies where it always has done, with the corporations, big business. The white elites have been allowed to continue business as usual, and their privilege has been preserved, albeit no longer on the basis of the colour of their skin. The bosses are still the bosses, not because they're white now, but because they're rich. And now, many of the politicians in the UK, like Conservative politicians, who support the now Thatcherite ANC today, were the ones wearing badges saying "Hang Nelson Mandela" back when the party was actually something radical and subversive. Back when the ANC was actually something radical and subversive. Any conclusions? We should not cling out of loyalty to hope offered by old institutions which have ceased to serve their original mission. All radical organisations eventually become established and conservative. This has been dubbed the iron law of oligarchy. See the Wikipedia article on that. Instead of permanently putting our faith in the party or movement that represents the people right now, we must be prepared to discard it. Keep loyal to your friends, your family, even your football team if that's your thing, but not your political party once it has outlived its usefulness. The most vivid description of the iron law of oligarchy is George Orwell's novel Animal Farm, in which the pigs, leaders of the animal uprising, begin with a rallying cry for freedom and end up walking around on two legs, dominating and exploiting the other animals the way the humans did before.